The CERN Large Hadron Collider and the Higgs Boson particle, what they're hiding from us concerning death, according to a scientist revelation. When we say that someone is born or dies, we mean scientifically that the ability to perceive our senses is lost or appears. A few years ago, news broke around the world about the greatest scientific discovery of recent years. Researchers at CERN have finally located the much publicized particle of God, or the Higgs Boson particle, as its official name implies. According to scientists, this is the primary element of matter that will reveal to us what we do not know about the nature of reality in the universe from the first moment of its creation until now. A discovery that is expected to bring upside down the image we have of the world. So, as the rave reviews about this great discovery gave and took, the give and take, we decided to seek the opinion of a specialist, an old acquaintance of Avaton, the assistant professor of astrophysics at the University of Athens, Manos Danezis, and he's a professor of astrophysics. In the discussion that follows, Mr. Danezis tells that the model of matter that we know has now changed radically and reveals to us what the material nature of man really is. In the context of this new reality, quote unquote, even death could be overcome, he says. Professor Danezis, Christos Almazis, asks, I know that you are following with great interest what is happening at CERN. How do you comment on the latest deafening developments? And the professor says, let me start by saying that I have unlimited respect for all the scientists who are struggling to find something new that promises to change our lives. But what opposes me is all this marketing that's starting to spread around science. In other words, a humiliation of it is being attempted on market terms. The search for the Higgs boson is the only search that was glorified and marketed as a major event before it was even discovered. We're talking about something purely unscientific. It takes a lot of repetition of an experiment, verifications, and evaluation of data from the rest of the scientific community to publish something official. There must have been a scientific torment, quote unquote, before we started the announcements. We do not set up festivals and festivals for something that we are supposed to find. And the journalist asked, but all the media presented the discovery of the particle as fact. The professor said, be careful, no one said they found it. They said that we have an indication that maybe something exists. The director of CERN himself urged his colleagues to be patient, to show prudence, and to be restrained in their expectations. Asked by reporters how he feels about the impending discovery of boson, he replied that physics has nothing to do with emotions but with logic. But in addition to restraint, there are many serious people who are skeptical of the issue and question whether the subatomic particle is the holy grail, quote unquote, of science. This view is also expressed by the Guardian journalist Andrew Brown, who in an article says verbatim, to enrich their knowledge around it, otherwise the scientists would not be able to secure the grants they seem to have won. So as you can see, different games are being played here. However, when they find it and publish it officially, the rest of the scientific community will be able to express an opinion. The next question put to him, but why is its discovery so important? The professor says, because we will be able to go back to the roots of what we call matter. It remains an unsolved mystery exactly what it is, but whether matter comes from the Higgs boson particle or anything else, it has nothing to do with what we know. That is, this substance that we process with our hands and instruments and is felt through our senses. And the next question, and all these bodies and objects that surround us? The professor says there is none of this out there in the universe. There is only one ocean of bubbling energy. This energy falls in on our organs. They take a part of it, transfer it through the neurons to the brain, and there the energy is transformed into what we call the sensible world. And the next question, so the world I see and feel is actually constructed in my head? The professor says, exactly. Next question, and we humans, however, belong to this world. What happens to our being? The professor says, Democritus clearly tells us that whatever our senses perceive is false. The only real thing is that our intellect perceives. Plato says the same, the professor says. By the term intellect, we mean consciousness, which is identified with the concept of spirit and freedom. I think, so I exist. For the moment we have intellect, we have existence. Our material substance, our bodies, nevertheless, is part of the physical world. And since the new science has changed the old model of the natural law, matter, space, time, we conclude that what we call man is also a construction of our senses. And the journalist asks, are we a nothing? The scientist says, no, we are something much more. We just, in our current situation, cannot grasp it. Let us look at it on another level. According to the theory of relativity, what we call matter is nothing more than a curvature of three-dimensional space to the fourth dimension, time. Where the three-dimensional curvature occurs to the fourth, and if a minimum threshold is exceeded, then human physiology perceives this curvature as material energy density. If this density of the material continues to increase, the well of curvature deepens in some way and reaches a ceiling again, then we will lose from our eyes, that is, form from our senses, the density of energy. This is called the black hole phenomenon. So if I take the space of the three dimensions and start to curve it towards the fourth, we start to see the material substratum of man. We call this development. If the well of curvature starts to shrink, this is called wear. Growth and decay together are called the cycle of human life. It's therefore understood that the only fact that our senses cannot perceive is the fluctuation of the fourth dimension, which gives us a sense of the existence of life. Question, it sounds like there is a possibility through this function to escape from the cycle of wear. We could perhaps avoid death. And the scientist says, theoretically, yes, since our material being is nothing more than a curvature of space, the primary element that gives birth to this matter and it begins to be governed by conditions of development and wear is space. Space, to give you an idea, is this nothingness, the imperceptible around us, a construction beyond the reach of the human senses, a mathematical fact. Well, that's not lost. There's always something ready to curve again. Finally, when we say that someone is born or dies, we mean scientifically that the ability to perceive our senses is lost or appears. We say all this is in astrophysics about stars. That is to say that someone there is the idea of creating a star. The density of material energy must be of value above. Question, as above, so below, according to a well-known Hermetic saying, and the scientist says, we have a sense of individuality and division. You and I, you are you and I am me. The division, the cutting into many pieces, is a product of the capacity of our brain and our physiology. There are no intersections out there in the universe. Everyone is one, with a capital O, one. Is there an ingredient? Do you want to call it energy? Do you want to call it an invisible void? Do you want to call it God? This second creation, this bubbling energy out there, when it is absorbed by human physiology, it creates cuts, it creates individualities. Question, because of this new perspective, does modern science remove matter from its former throne? The scientist says the entire civilization, the Western one, was based on the conceptual content of what we call matter. That is, it is the primary event of the universe. This is how it emerged from the discoveries of the 16th and 17th centuries. So since matter is the primary cosmic event, we began in our lives to look for matter and its derivatives, sacrificing for its benefits all the values and ideas and I believe us. We have reached a point of humiliation in order to be able to obtain matter and its consequences. But soon the material will lose its value, character, because we are no longer matter. Question, such a statement could bring about frightening changes. And the scientist says exactly, but imagine a man who has realized his higher character and his higher ego in a universal unity. What will he ask of society? Well, he will ask for other goods which are not ready and the current social structure cannot give them. When you say that everyone is one, you lose the sense of individuality of the I, realizing that this is not the perishable flesh, it is not a thing. One will realize that what the senses see is an image, a matrix. And for the image to exist, its template must necessarily exist somewhere. If it starts looking for that template, then nothing will hold it back. The society that will put the flesh in second place without ignoring it, of course, is dangerous for the old culture. Question. So do you need a change, a repentance? Scientist says exactly, but this reversal is painful. We need to change our conscience. Question. In practice, what could be the first step in such a transformation? The scientist says the problem of society is fear. Whatever evil befalls man is through fear. Fear is created by the concept of need. I'm afraid because I will be deprived of something I need, the man thinks. When I create false needs, I create false fears. So the inflation of needs creates a giant of fears, and the frightened man can never be a free man. So here is a first step. To limit our needs to the physical needs, to limit our fears to natural fears, so every day we will become more and more free. This was from Avaton magazine, and this is on, I translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.